What is up, App Nation? It is Steve P. Young, founder of appmasters.com, the place you go when you want action-packed content related to helping you grow your downloads and, more importantly, those revenues. And speaking of those revenues, we're going to talk all about how these off-platform type of ways, you're starting to hear it. You're starting to see certain apps doing this where they're going, and games have been doing this for a long time, but we're taking an app download and getting them to monetize on the web. And I brought in an expert to do that right now. So let's bring in Chris from Xsolla. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve. It is a pleasure to be here.
Chris, you're the president of Xsolla. You're a global leader in the video game space, and you've been helping tons of big games monetize better outside in this web shop as well that I would love to explore with you. But can you give us a little bit of background with Xsolla, and then we'll get into like these off-platform monetization tactics as well?
Of course, Steve. So, Xsolla is a company that's been around for 20 years. We
Wow.
work exclusively in the video game space, helping game makers bring their visions to market. And we really are a company that does all of the things that you would need to run the business of your games. So, we're a commerce company. We provide a lot of additional technologies that help you manage the player relationship beyond just monetizing. And although, I know we have a very broad audience here today, and I say
Yeah.
we focus on the game space, there's a ton of learnings that are applicable when it comes to the direct to consumer business, how that works in the mobile space now. We invented what are called web shops, it's a term for gaming. I believe you call it app to web for other apps.
Yeah.
So we really built this for the games industry. We work with thousands of game companies. We run over 600 of these web shops now with some of the biggest companies in the world. So I'm really excited to lean into this and share some of our insights and
Yeah.
connect the dots on how this may be helpful for your audience.
Well, let's talk about like the some of the changes that have been made, right? And now Apple allowing us to take payments off the normal Apple payment platform. Like, what have you been seeing from that? Like at an overview.
Yeah, and there have been big changes. For over a decade, Apple and Google have really been the makers of the rules when it comes to commerce on
That's for
mobile.
sure.
And that has now been changing through legal cases here in the US, regulatory changes in Europe, even things happening in India from a regulatory standpoint. So, all of these gatekeepers or platforms, depending however you want to call them, are really being forced to open up and allow much more of a fair ecosystem that allows app developers to pick and choose, how they want to conduct their commerce. And some of the big changes with Apple are the fact that now you can actually direct players from your app to these what we call web shops or
That's
these
awesome. Yeah.
sites that are outside of the app store, and you can actually build a relationship with the players, conduct business out there. You're allowed now to even put direct link payments into your apps so that you could put a button in your app to buy something that uses a different payment method than Apple. And what all of this means is that you now have much more freedom. You also have much better economics because the 30% fee has been something that has been a thorn in many developers' sides for a long time, or even a 15% fee if you're a smaller developer. It's still a pretty hefty fee that you have to pay to Apple or Google or any of the platforms. But now you can actually bring in your own payment stack and work with companies like ourselves, where you're only paying 5 to 7% per transaction, which is a big savings on the margin. And we can go in more to love to share sort of how it's more than just a margin play, how there's, through the use
Yeah.
of live ops and direct relationships with your users, you can actually increase your revenue. But we'll stick right now just on what's happening in the ecosystem where these gatekeepers are opening up, and there's much more freedom to run the business the way that you want to.
Yeah, I like it. The thing that I wanted to highlight too, Chris, is some of the AI tools are starting to use credits. So, that is technically, if you're not a game, that could be technically a web shop because now you're giving away I know a couple of clients of that we have, instead of buying a subscription, you can buy credits within the app instead of buying a subscription too.
Absolutely. So, if you're starting to use things like credits or, any kind of just different economic model, that could be very difficult within the App Store because they have a very, very, very strict criteria for how you actually price things, the amount of bundles you can put in there, the amount of different purchase points, whatever you want to call it, just how much you can buy and what you can buy. But now getting it off of the app and onto the web allows you to really, I think, do what's best for your product.
I'm on mute. Have you seen any type of data in terms of like how better it performs, whether it's through the Apple payment system or through a web shop like your guys is, where you're taking payments on the web?
Yeah, we do. We have a ton of data around that, and I think this is one of the really interesting stories when it comes to going direct to consumer. First of all, there's the margin improvement, which we just spoke about, where immediately you're going to have an improved margin because the take rate is lower, right? If you're
Mm,
going direct and working with a third party like ourselves or any number of others. The second thing, and these kind of get, I think, more and more interesting as you go,
yeah.
beyond just the margin improvement, we are actually seeing that the game partners we work with are generating increased revenue, average revenue per paying user, and increased lifetime value by moving their most engaged players out of the App Store over to these web shops.
Mm,
And the reason they're able to do that, and this is on average in the range of 8 to 12%, but we have some that are north of 25% increased revenue per paying user and by extension, lifetime value. And these numbers are only increasing as our partners become more adept at understanding how to leverage this direct relationship. And it
mhm.
comes from things like being able to run live operations, which are limited time events, special events, do behavioral pricing, doing special offers to different types of cohorts of players, on and on and on. All of the things that you can do through traditional e-commerce, you can now do on one of these web shops. And the result is that the user, the player, feels that they're getting better value from their game. They're more engaged. They're returning to these web shops more frequently. They're making purchases. 60% of people that go to a web shop come back and make repeat purchases, which is a phenomenal number. Over 80% of players out there already know about web shops. So it's a really good business and it allows you to drive additional, not just margin, but additional revenue from your most engaged players.
Are you seeing that? Did I get this right, Chris? Where some of your most sophisticated games are actually like segmenting, like, hey, these are our best users. Let's take them to a web shop. Maybe this person hasn't purchased yet. Let's keep it on Apple. Is that what they're doing, or are they just all moving to the web?
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. And you touch on, I think, an interesting point here, which is using a web shop as an extension of your business, a way to expand your business. It's not a binary, oh, we're going to drop the app store and we're just going to focus on a web shop. No, you use both and you can use them for different player segments. So your app store is a really great top of funnel acquisition channel and you can get a lot of players there and then you can identify your most engaged players and move them over to a web shop where you can actually develop a direct relationship with them because now you're allowed to get all of their data, you're allowed to communicate with them directly, all of the things you can't do within the App Store. And you're allowed to provide better value to them that they cannot get within the App Store. And as a result, you'll see increased engagement and spend. And then you can take it even further where you can get true VIPs to have their own custom pages that they can go to visit. And you can really run with this. But I think thinking of these web shops as part of an expanded ecosystem, and
Mm.
that allows you to really look at the different cohorts or player segments that you have, and provide different value propositions to them. Perhaps the people that stay in the app stores, you lean more heavily into more of an ad based model where you're going to derive value from them since they're not spending, they're still engaging, and you can get some ad revenue out of them. Whereas the players on the web shops, who wouldn't be serving ads to either on the web shop or in app. But could go on and on. But yes,
Yeah,
you're right.
I love
It's
it.
it's a great way to think of it as an ecosystem.
I love it. All right. What do you want to say hi to a few people? Kevin, good to see you. Thank you for the email. Happy Labor Day to you. Miguel, good to see you. Crypto Crunch. I'm going to be in New York 2 weeks from now. So if you're going to around for App Promotion Summit, or you got, an invite from Adapty or any of those guys, hit me up. I'll be there. Alexandra, good to see you, bro. Alex, Nathan, and Hello World. I got you, bro, but we're not. And then Think Low. Yo, how's it going to you as well? So, hey, Chris, I want to go specifically to maybe more tactical things. So, if you're a game developer, and if you don't have a game, like pay attention, because I think what I've learned now that I've been doing this for a very long time, Chris, is that you start to see certain trends, and the industry or the category that seems to be ahead of those trends are games, mobile games. They're very adaptive. They come up with very innovative monetization tactics. So do you have certain tactical things that we can do and you can break it out with either social casino, RPG apps, maybe hyper casual? I'll let you take the lead here.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, gosh, there's so many different tactics out there, and I'm just looking at a couple of notes here.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, social casino really was the forerunner when it came to engaging with their players outside of the app ecosystem and building their own ecosystems. I remember hearing stories where I forget if it was Play. I think it was Playtika. They used to actually send their VIP players a Android phone with a store preloaded on it, so that they would go to a custom store outside of the App Store. You don't need to go to those lengths anymore because
Hmm.
you are now allowed to actually engage with your players. But the point was they were building a custom experience for individual players and connecting those players with that experience. And within it, it had special offers like, in this case, higher chip multipliers or bonus coins for the same spend off platform. That's low hanging fruit. I think
Mm.
everybody knows the idea of, oh, you go off platform and you can buy the same, you get a 10% bonus on what you buy versus what you buy in the App Store. That's a great first kind of offer, but you want to go beyond that. You want to think beyond the first offer. So, when you're really thinking about this business, a lot of people fail because they only think, oh, I'm just going to make a 10% bonus to everything you purchase on the web shop versus the app. And
Right.
that value proposition runs out fairly quickly because it begins to feel not particularly unique or valuable. So you start to get into things like, thinking about what is your first, how are you going to get people to make that first purchase on a web shop through great value, which is often just a increase on what they're already purchasing. But then subsequently, what are the campaigns you're going to run that are going to keep them coming back and give them additional value they can't get anywhere else? Um, VIP store bundles are a type of thing. It's difficult to bundle stuff together within
Yeah.
the app, but when you're on a web shop, you can start to bundle different offers together for players. Cross game currency promotions. Those have been popular. Um, I'm just looking here, limited time event bundles is something that we've seen come out of the strategy game genre, which is
Yes.
really popular. And yeah, I can keep going on and on. Seasonal
That's a
updates.
no-brainer. That's a
Yeah,
no-brainer one. Like, one of my clients was like, "Hey, we don't want people reliant on these bundle sales, but usually every time they do a bundle sale, it tends to drive revenues." And then, what I always say, Chris, is like, and this is a web thing. I like to adopt a lot of web things, but it's easier to sell more to people who are willing to pay than try to monetize people who are like always going to be free. So even if you can get somebody to pay a little bit, that's more likely you can upsell those guys versus trying to, get somebody from 0 to 2, get them to 0 to 1 first, and then they'll likely pay more later.
absolutely. Um, and I think also seasonality is a
Yeah.
big thing of really looking at different offers that relate to events that are going on or different seasonal different seasons, seasonality, running tournaments, right? Having exclusive rewards from those. I think you can start to also lean into loyalty programs, which is a tactic that we're starting to see take hold to drive, extended retention. So there's a lot of different things that you can do out there beyond just giving a 10% boost on whatever you buy.
I do like that. I mean, I think having some incentive to get people to switch over to a new way of paying you is more interesting than just being like, hey, here's this offer and just check out on the web. Because we, on the website, on the app side of things, we tested, one of our clients tested this, but we didn't do an offer for checking out on a web. We are just trying to test, hey, if you check out on the app store like you're used to doing versus taking to a Stripe page or some type of other payment platform, which one performed better. And we saw better conversions on just the app, but there wasn't any discount. So it wasn't like the user got to choose. And I think that's probably the way I would start to do it in the beginning days. I do think that this is definitely the future because you see a lot of like app companies even doing a lot of web to app campaigns where they get the user to pay on the web and then use the app and they don't have a web product per se.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. Where do you want to take it next, Chris? Because I think data would be interesting too, because there's an advantage of these web shops because you get way more data than you would get just somebody purchasing through the app store.
Yeah, absolutely. That's sort of one of the big stories here that goes sort of has gone under the radar. So we've talked about margins, we've talked about increased revenue, and the next thing is the fact that there's a whole world of data that a lot of people may not even realize they're not is out there that you
Yeah.
are not getting about your players and your app because the platforms have held all of the data themselves. And there are things that you can get beyond the obvious things are emails, right? Being able to get customer emails, knowing your customer is difficult through a platform because so much of it is obfuscated and there's a wall between you. But being able to really get to know your customer, not just the ability to connect with them, but where they are, when they're playing, what types of payment methods they're using, all of this can become really important if you're starting to think about cross promotions and things like that. And what I mean by that is, the ability to cross promote with different alternative payment companies that are out there. If you can understand how much of your player base is using a particular alternative payment, you can now potentially go to that payment company and run some sort of marketing campaign or acquisition campaign together, right? Which benefits both of you. And there's a whole host of additional things. You being able to get an identity graph across devices and games, um, offer level analytics, being able to run price tests, elasticity, check elasticity, cohort paybacks, all of these things that go through the payment currently or historically had gone through the payment systems on the platform side and were kept from you. If you're doing this yourself or working with a third party, you now get all of this information. And you can start to also look at things like not just your of course, you can always look at your return on ad spend normally, but now you can really dive into it deeper and get it on a channel basis. What I mean by that is email that leads to purchases or QR scans or creator links. You can really start to tap into this on a much deeper level. And at the end of the day, you're able to get better segmentation between your VIP, comeback, discount, sensitive players, etc. Lower CAC on owned channels, smarter live ops calendar, so it just allows you to really know your customer and run the business better.
I love it. I mean, email's a no-brainer. What people on the web have been talking about emails for the longest time, and we're just like email, email, email. And on the app side of things, it's very difficult. One of the questions I get asked the most, Chris, is like, is this going to hurt my ASO? Is this there any risk with Apple and Google? Because, one of our apps was taken down, Chris, and I won't go into details here, but what's the risk side with
Yeah,
Apple and
so the
Google?
risk has certainly diminished. And first and foremost, I'm not a lawyer, right? And I'm not a app store representative or anything.
Mhm.
But no, the reality is that I think the risk is really diminished now because there is in the U.S. legally, uh, it's codified, by legal precedent now. There is a green light to link out from the app with no commission on web purchases, no scare screens. Apple is appealing this, but they have to comply. and I don't think their appeal is in good shape. They were actually caught. The Department of Justice is investigating them now because they were caught lying to the judge
Oh,
in this case, which is a very bad look if that's true. Allegedly, they were. Um, but so I think where we were a year ago, it's a much different time now. And there's so many companies that are doing this. Even the biggest, most cautious game companies out there have embraced this. In the EU, the regulations with the Digital Markets Act, are really firmly in place now, and both Apple and Meta have been fined heavily for non-compliance. So, I don't think there's any real risk there on alternative app stores, alternative payments, all of that. And I think in India you have UCB with offering alternative billing alongside Google Play billing, the reduced fee for alternative billing transactions, all of that. With I think there's a lot moving through. Even Apple with their CCI probe, which remains active. I think there's so much momentum going now and so much precedent that the risk is. Look, I'm not going to try to tell everyone there's zero risk, but we have not seen anyone getting kicked since all of this sort of went down. That was more of an early day, situation. And I'm sorry to hear you guys got kicked.
oh, it was a whole different reason. Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole different reason. I just feel like it depends on who you actually get to review your app. That's what I feel like. It's not like there's no cohesiveness, or what's the right word? It's no similarities. So, anyways,
Yeah.
thanks,
I mean,
Chris.
but I will tell you, we've been doing this now for over 2 years since we've launched our first web shop. And initially, there was a lot of hesitation. It was very much okay, who's going to take the risk first? How is Apple going to respond? And momentum gradually built up. And now, with all of these regulations and court rulings, now that we're past all of those, and the courts have forced the companies to, it's not just they were ruled against, now they actually have to comply. The floodgates, from what we're seeing, are open. And, games have long, one could argue, been kind of the hardest hit when it comes to enforcement and regulations from App
True.
Store guidelines. But we do now have the most cautious game companies on the planet who are embracing web shops, and they have armies of lawyers of their own that have evaluated the risk and feel that there's no risk. At least, it appears to be that way. So I think it's a great time to explore this, and I think everything is on your side.
Yeah. Joey said the same thing. I feel the same way about app reviewers. Some are definitely more particular than others.
Yeah.
And if you got any concerns of whether this web shops work, you got this case study too, Chris, from Playtica. So they were reporting the direct to consumer platform grew. Here is the slides I have here that I was able to download,
Mhm.
but it is from public now docs. So it's up there and anybody can download it. But they were talking about how direct to consumer platform continues to grow. They saw 31.5% year over year as well.
Yeah, and I think it just goes to show you the power of the platform. And as companies become more adept at using all of the tools and techniques and tactics, we're going to see those numbers go up. And then we didn't even talk about discovery, of how going direct to consumer opens more avenues for discovery of your app. And then, of course, that leads to increased revenue and all of that as well.
What do you mean discovery? Like increased
So
discovery?
discovery, that this is one of the largest problems facing, definitely in the game space, just getting your app discovered, getting it
Oh,
in
okay.
front of the
Getting
right players.
okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Okay.
user acquisition.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Love it.
But yeah, I mean, by going to these off-platform, these web shops, or these app to web offers or constructs, you now have many new ways to actually message out to players and direct them to your web shop. Whereas before, you were really locked into mobile performance marketing and
Yeah.
trying to drive people do user acquisition just through the mobile device. Well, now with a web shop, you truly can deploy all the other methods of acquisition that are available to standard e-commerce and even in real world, right? With QR code links and cross promotions with other companies and Google search results or I guess LLM search results now and
Yeah.
whatever whatever you want, but yeah.
Honestly, I prefer those search results sometimes.
Exactly. And the cool thing is now it's of course you could use those before, but now you actually because you're doing your own direct to consumer, your own web shop, you can link all of the attribution and you can actually see what's working, what's not working, run the campaigns properly, just target different segments and have the full data stack to make that a valuable proposition to increase your ability to acquire the customers.
Chris, I wonder if we can, if you're okay with it. I know we prepared a doc together because I mean you did all the work actually, so I won't take any credit for that. But we prepared this doc. Can we go over that and then can I share that 90-day rollout blueprint for those who
Yeah,
want to
absolutely.
start? Okay. I'm gonna share it on my screen if that's okay, and then we can walk through
Go
it.
for it. Go
All
for
right,
it.
cool. This is it. So phase one, week one, phase zero, technically, week 0 to 1, strategy math. Let's walk through this a little bit.
Yeah,
High level
absolutely.
blueprint.
So, this is like you said, a 90-day rollout plan. So if you're going to put out a web shop, once you get it out there, the first step is to really segment your paying players. You have your whales, which I think we're all familiar with those terms, your mid-core players. Start to do some price testing to see where the value lies. Use bigger denomination packages. We have some companies out there that are offering $999 packages on their web shops or even more, providing VIP perks, etc. So the whole thing here is just trying to figure out what math works. What is the sweet spot for your different segments when it comes to how you're going to offer things on your web shop? I think when you go into the next phase one, it's sort of what we call stack and identity. So here it's just making sure that you have the right sort of merchant of record and web shop provider up and that everything's working properly with them. That now that you're getting things happening, that you're actually that anti-fraud's working, refunds, receipts, all of that's working. Make sure your identity, your payments, tracking, everything, all the sort of the analytics side or the back office stuff is working. And then when you get closer to launch in weeks 5 to 8, just start to add a button or a link to your offer pages, test a QR code to make sure that's working. Make sure that your messaging is compliant. And I'm just scrolling through here. Yeah, I'm scrolling through my own version of it as well. So and then your off app tactics, make sure that those are working, that the value premium beats, the convenience premium. And what I mean there, I'm going to pause on that.
Yeah.
One of the things that you do have to think of when you are putting up a web shop is your players already have a premium around convenience when they're transacting within the app store. Their credit card is already in there. They already have a login. They already have an ID. It's easy. They just push a button, right? To get them to go to a web shop, you need to provide enough value that it's going to offset the drop in convenience momentarily, right? For that first time sort of purchase where they may have to re-enter their card information, or hopefully if you're working with someone like us, we already have them within our identity system and they may already have an account, so it's just a login as well. But it doesn't matter. There's still a convenience factor that you want to encourage them and entice them to get over with the right value proposition. Yeah, and then you make sure that's all working. And sorry, I just lost my little spot here.
Hey Chris, can I just say sometimes I think it's your mic or whatever.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, like just stay close.
I'll make sure I'm in a little closer here. All right.
Oh, now you're like whispering to me.
Sorry about that, Steve.
No.
You know what? I fiddled with the setup yesterday, and I probably had positioned the mic incorrectly a little bit. So my apologies. I'll lean in a bit more.
Chris, the cool kids are just putting the mic right in front of their face. I mean,
I know. It's old. I'm old school. What can I say? Yeah. I like a boom mic, right?
Yeah, there it is. That's what I thought you had.
Oh my goodness. But anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
then you get into phase three, which is really optimizing your KPIs. You've got all this great data, and making sure that it all runs, and then you're good to go.
I love it. One of the tactics that I've seen work pretty well, and I think this is what non-games can start doing too, is leveraging some of the online, like one thing I would say is like webinars or hangouts, like taking sort of like real life elements, putting it into the app, bringing it to that. I know it not necessarily like monetizing through it, but I've had clients who will do a webinar and then get people to the non-paying users do a webinar for them to kind of go over like, hey, here's the best ways to do X, Y, and Z, and then get them to convert on the web too. And then another friend of mine is starting to incorporate for those who are paying. So I was thinking through adding more value, right, for a DTC.
Right.
Like, could you give away a PDF, a blueprint of your own, right? And a video, accompanying video, because that's easier because you have their emails now. So could you add more value if they check out on the web, things that are very easy to implement and add, like PDFs, videos, all really cool that we all love to.
You are 100% right, Steve. This gets into the territory of what I'm really excited about with web shops and going outside of the app store is the fact that, you don't think of it just as a store, a different storefront. Think of it as a hub, a community hub where those engaged players who love your game or love your app can become part of a community. They can develop a relationship with the developers, with one another. And yes, value does not, and this, I think you're really astute with that. Value does not necessarily mean cash, right, to everybody. Of course, we all want to monetize, but something can be of value to somebody, and it may not be an item, or it may not even be something within the app. It could be information, it could be connection, it could be insight, whatever it might be, right? Value, and this is all of the stuff that you can provide off platform that you cannot do within your app, because you would have to submit a new app build, right, and get it reviewed if you want to put something in there. And you can do this live, to your point, on the web. And I think as we get more and more people doing this, what I am hoping to see is more people, more companies embracing the idea of, their web shops are truly community hubs where they can
Yes.
run live operations and connect with players.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, ultimately, if you think about a game like these leaderboards, they're communities. And I see my son playing 2K against random people, and it's just that is community in essence. And we don't think of it that way in the game aspect of things, but it is technically a community as well.
It really is. And what I talk with a lot of parents who ask, about games, and they think of, and it's not just parents, but you have a lot of people that may think still of games as just it's just some little pastime. It's a time filler, or they're kind of silly or whatever. And I say, no, 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 no. You're thinking about it all wrong. For a lot of people, games are their hobby, and they're their primary hobby. And once you start to think of it as a hobby, it unlocks a whole world of ways that you can provide value and engage with your users, right?
Yeah.
Because you think of people who play golf as a hobby, or how
Yeah.
much money do they spend, how much time do they spend watching videos? To your point, they're looking for more information, just whatever it may be. If they like cars, or they like gardening, or whatever it may be, they're not always performing that one activity. There's a
Mhm.
whole world of engagement opportunities around the hobby. So I think as developers, if we start to think more about our product not as a product but as a hobby, it opens a world of opportunity.
Yeah, I love it. All right. Anything that I missed that you might want to cover before we look at some other apps from the
No, I
community?
think I think we. I mean, look. I mean, I think we did a nice kind of little, wander through the forest here outside of the
Yeah.
walled gardens, just talking about the benefits, and but I think there's a lot of lessons that games employ that are useful to other apps as well when it comes to managing those player relationships. So I would encourage people just to check those out.
I like this little line that you guys put in here. Don't clone your IAP store on the web. Make an upgrade to the relationship. And That's the best way to do it. And I think a lot of people are starting to test this, like, app to web type of thing, getting people to check out for non-games. And I think you're just cloning. That's the best. I love that line. Don't clone it, make it an upgrade to the relationship. And how can you offer that upgrade? And it doesn't always have to be through monetary means, like Chris said.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Well, all right, Chris. Well, and if you guys got any questions, feel free to put it in the chat and I will get to them as well. But let's get into our app audit segment of the show. We like to start off every app audit with some dad jokes. Thank you for laughing, Chris. That means a lot to me. Thank you for laughing.
I laugh a lot. What can I say?
I like to have a good time. Come on, man. This is all good. Okay, Chris, would you like to go first, or would you want me to go first? You're the guest. I'll let you pick.
You okay? You can go first. I mean,
right,
I'll defer to the host.
Okay. All right. This took me a second to get, but here we go, Chris. Chris, why is the ocean wet?
I don't know, Steve. Why is the ocean wet?
Correct answer, Chris. Because the sea weed. There you go. All right, Chris, what do you got?
All right. I'll go with I'll keep the golf theme going here since I used a golf analogy earlier. Why did the golfer bring 2 pairs of pants?
Why?
In case he got a hole in one.
I like it. All right. Put S if you thought my joke was better, and then put C if you thought Chris's joke was better, and then Chris will play you for a round, okay? Coffee, tea, beer, whatever you want. All right. And then just by voting, you will get a free Indie App Santa promo on us. So all you got to do is put S or C. Frankly, we don't care if you even learn our jokes.
Exactly.
All right.
I had a whole list of them ready to go.
Oh, really? Hey, feel free to share another one, Chris, if you lose this one. All right.
Oh, man. Why don't people trust atoms?
Why?
Because they make up everything.
I like it.
Good little science
I don't know if that's
there.
too loud. But I had to give you a big, loud one for you.
Okay.
All right, let's get into the app audit. And if you want us to feature your app in a future live stream, just go to appmasters.com/audit. That once again is appmasters.com/audit. We've got Kushix, if I said that right, app. He's got a Wallzy app right here. It's a wallpaper and widgets app. Needs help. I would like to see if there's a problem in our application. Want to grow performance, increasing on-store and user acquisition. Okay, let's take a peek. So, Chris, anything on the storefront, the App Store's presence that you see that you want to?
Yeah, I took a look at this earlier, Steve, and what initially stood out to me was that the images they're really pretty images, but they seem a little busy. And I felt like the key messaging was a little lost within those images. And furthermore, the messaging that was used on each of those is close, but it's a little out of alignment with the messaging listed down below as the key features. So, I felt just if I was taking a quick read of this, if I'm scrolling through the App Store and I hit this page, visually, it's like, oh, this is really cool, but there's a lot of visual noise that, and then the just the font on widgets aesthetic wallpaper is personalized, got a little difficult to read because it kind of bled into the background. Again, beautiful color palette. The images, the individual pieces of all of those images are really beautiful, but put all together, it just struck me at least as a little bit of visual noise that was difficult, especially when the logo is so clean and beautiful, right?
I know. I like it. Yeah, it's all great feedback there. I think it's a tough category from a user acquisition perspective too. If you're just relying on ASO, I kind of reviewed this in our App Masters. We have a community that I run. I'm a big proponent of community, and I kind of suggested ways that I would start doing keyword research around this. So if you're just reliant on organic traffic, trying to get downloads there, and you don't want, you don't have a budget for paid marketing, what I would suggest is going through AppFollow. I do like this tool the best in terms of just keyword research, and just put like wallpaper if that's your primary keyword that you're going after, and then try to find an app that shows up. Okay, it's a little slow for me right now. That has, so here's my process. Go search for that primary keyword, try to find an app that has the lowest ratings of the top, let's say 10 to 20. Click on the eye icon when it finally loads. So here, I'll give you an example. So you see this 13,000 in a sea of hundreds of thousands. So I'll click on here, or even here. I'll click this little eye icon, and when it works, it doesn't always works, but it tends to work frequently. See, when I'm live, it was working when I wasn't live. It's not working when I am live. When it does work, it gives you a bunch of keywords, and all you're trying to find are keywords around 30 search score that like have a little bit lower competition, and those are a great way to drive downloads there. And then with wallpapers, I might just try to predict when's the next iPhone version coming out, and like literally just be like this, like iPhone 17, right? Like you're like, oh, cool. So be ahead of the curve like these guys are. And that might give you good keywords to go after. Let's see if this works. Click this. Dang it. All right. Sorry. Anything else you want to add here before we go into the app itself, Chris? Oh, you're on mute.
There we go. Sorry. I'm not really familiar with the wallpaper space, right? So take all of this, knowing that. But I don't know if videos are a common ingredient when it comes to wallpaper app stores. But there's no video on here showing the product.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
It's helpful, and yeah,
I like it. Let me see the pricing before we get into the app.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
1 year, 1 month. Oh man. Okay, let's get into it.
Yeah, and then I think when was the last update? I don't know when the last update was.
Let's see. June. Oh, it's been over a year.
Yeah, so that's also a red flag. Like, again, I don't know about this space, but I know when I'm looking at apps, I'll check out to see when the last update was to see if it's a zombie app or if it's still live. And
yeah,
so even just pushing a nothing update just to get it, logged in there, can show that you're still committed to supporting the app.
It's a great idea. Pick my interests. I don't know what this interest is for. Like, is it for the widgets? Is it for the wallpaper? But I'll pick a few. Let's see if there's golf, Chris, just for you. Nature. Okay, sports. That's good enough. Go premium. I don't know how you feel, Chris, but when I see something that's a little bit lower, I like to always start off with around $20 just to see if it will work. I mean, there's a motivation app that, I've featured in a previous video that's done very well with the $20 per year type of deal, but I might lean into $20 because if I see anything lower, maybe because we're both in the US, like I'm like, oh, is this even a good product? Like, is it even worth paying for? Like, I almost have a negative effect, a cheaper product for me.
Yeah. Well, I think there's that. And then there's also, and I forget the name of this approach, but it's the idea that you put a higher price point above what you think is your optimal price point so that more people select the optimal price point thinking there's more value from it.
Yeah.
So you could even use that $19.99 above and give a slightly better value to the $12.99. And you're going to drive potentially more conversion. Well, first you'll get some people that are willing to, they have no price elasticity or resistance, right? And they'll get the $19.99. But then you'll potentially drive more people up from the lower price point to the middle price point because they think that middle one is the best value.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I wrote this back in 2012. Okay. When I was just 12 years old. And then we kind of had this, and to your point, I just love visuals, right? We were just doing monthly, yearly, buy that and get everything. And then I just A/B tested this. These are just like images that I just put together just without highlighting what we're actually offering. But I kind of took kind of what you're I don't know if this is what you're trying to saying, but I was like, okay, well, these two core features I knew from talking to my audience that they wanted, so they all have that, but hey, you get so much more if you, and just for $10 more per year. And that's where it completely changed. So not only do we increase our conversion by 233%, here it was a 60-40 split, 60% buying the monthly, right? This was 60-40. And then here, this was an 86% split with now 80 people buying 86. So it went up from 40% buying the yearly to 86% buying the yearly, just because we just presented it in a different way.
Absolutely.
So that's a great advice. I'm glad you brought that up. So you can be like, hey, here's a basic plan. You only have a yearly, no monthly. Here's a basic plan that comes with maybe just the wallpapers. But if you want widgets, if you want watch faces, if you want top tier support, well, it's $19.99. And that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And even, I mean, even you using the phrase basic, versus monthly, I think even the words, right, can be a gentle nudge to people's, ego and psychology. Like, do I want, the basic thing, or do I want the premium, or, there's a lot of ways you could play with that.
The gold. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. That's good stuff. That's a cool wallpaper. And I've seen these apps. I mean, I've even worked with one watch face app for the Apple Watch that did pretty well, like above 5 figures a month. So that's 10 grand. If you don't want to do math. All right. Cool. Anything else on the app, Chris? You want me to poke around?
No, I think all good.
Well, let's get into do I have a suspense drum roll thing? I don't know. I don't know, H. I don't know if I have drum rolls. But all right, H, let's see. Yeah, I don't have it. I only have a thinking one. All right, H. Who won the dad joke, my friend? Brown.
So the score is 6-3, and Chris wins this round.
What?
So
you guys are such traitors.
How dare you?
Well, thank you, everybody. You know what? How about this, Steve? I told 2 jokes. So if there were 3 jokes total and 9 votes total, each joke got 3 votes. So we kind of evened out, right?
I'll take that. I don't need your pity, Chris. Thank you, though, but I don't need it.
It's just math, right?
There you go. Well, congratulations, Chris. There you go. I'm just having fun with my soundboard now. All right, H, spin that wheel, and we will give a free Indie App Santa promo on us. That's courtesy of one of our partners, Arcads.ai. Okay, we got a new winner, I think. H.
Yes,
Asio. There you go. Yes, and he voted for the right person. There you go. You deserve it. So just reach out to me, steve@appmasters.com, and I will get you synced up with our team, and then we'll give a free Indie App Santa promo on us, thanks to our friends from Arcads.ai. If you're looking for AI UGC, I just created a video about Arcads, and they are one of my favorite ways of creating AI UGC platforms. Whoops, let me add this to the stage here too. And one of our best performing creatives was actually created through Arcads.ai as well. So congratulations. Yay. Thank you. All right, I got a question here. Maybe we can get to this. John says, an App Store listing question. How long from App Store approval to ranking for ASO to conversions? My app just got approved, and I'm wondering how long until traffic. John, it's usually pretty immediate. And so if you did your ASO right, the rankings should be updated. And, like there are some ways to guarantee some rankings that I won't say publicly, but, they're all covered in our App Masters community and our academy. And we got a new plan on there as well. But yeah, I would say it's pretty quick. Like we launch a new app, and if we did, because we know how to do ASO, usually our keywords are ranked right away. All right, cool. Oh, see, I got another vote, but it was too late. Hey, did you even count that? I'm just kidding. All right, well, let's go on to the next app. We've got a quiz maker, Chris. It's from, Nathan's here too. All right, be very brutal. Okay, Nathan wants that. All right, Nathan, I like this app. I like the screenshots too, but take it away, Chris. He needs help with UA, ASO, or any organic way, but really just more downloads for him.
Yeah, I think, I mean, the screenshots are good here. It's clean. It shows the different devices of where you can learn and everything. It's a little hard to determine to read the flashcards, but that's okay.
Yeah.
The thing that stood out to me here potentially is just the subtitle. You have Learn with AI, which it's good, but it's also a little generic. Like, what am I learning? How am I learning? Right.
Yeah.
I think, maybe expanding that a little bit to provide, well, first of all, more ASO, right? Because that's going to be a source that is referenced, but also your value proposition in there. So is it, is it learn with AI flashcards? Is it, I'm not exactly sure what the right recommendation is, but
Yeah.
that was one thing to me that if I was just a consumer, I'd be like, okay, I'm not quite sure what this is. Everybody's claiming AI these days. How, what's there? Anyway, I'm belaboring that point. So I think that might be one thing. It is fairly recent. I think the last update was March, so it's got the version history shows it's still being updated, although we're getting close to this point of time where I might feel that this is an app that is no longer supported. So that's something I would look at, is potentially just pushing some sort of new update to get that version history refreshed. And I think that's otherwise seemed pretty solid. I don't know about the app inside itself,
Okay.
but the taglines on there made sense.
Yeah. Nathan, I might lean into this. I don't know what this means. Simply take a picture. Like,
Mm.
are you taking that picture and turning it to flashcards with AI? Is AI intelligent enough to do that? If that's the case, I might lean into that a little bit more too. And then, what I would say here is, if you got quiz maker, like depending on what keyword you're going after, if it's a quiz maker, then call it a quiz maker here. If it's a flashcard maker, call it a flashcard maker here. And then it's not to learn everything, but it's more primarily probably to ace your tests. So lean into the benefit a bit more as well. And what we've been testing is, he said the picture allows you to take. So say that simply, because it's like, look, if I'm a kid, like frankly, I'm an adult, I still don't want to learn any. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to take tests. I don't want to study. I'd rather just say, simply take a picture. Our app turns it into a flashcard. I'm like, whoa, that's pretty cool. And unfortunately, I pulled this app follow. It's still not working, but what I'm noticing is there's not a lot of ratings for Quiz Maker. And so I'm feeling pretty good that you could probably rank pretty well for it. And I would try to, do what you can to push yourself up there, but it doesn't seem as competitive of a keyword than I originally thought. I keep clicking on this and it's not showing up. Maybe I've abused it for the day. But what I would also do is go on the web and see if there's any. Run this at your own risk, okay? Run this at your own risk. But what I would do is see if any things are there, like Quizify as an example, that are websites but don't have an app. So these might have some keywords, and I don't think this is the same company, by the way, but that's what this app is literally doing, is taking a brand that might already be existing, that might be known to other people, and leveraging the app store. So it's a different distribution channel. So, hey, I'm not, like Chris said, I'm not a lawyer. You might be going into legal, trademark stuff, but anyways, it has worked in the past. Cool. All right, Nathan, any questions since you're here that you want to ask? Oh, let's take a look at the app. He's here. Let's give him the VIP treatment. Where's our web shop, Chris? All right.
Right.
If you buy these 100 gems, we will look at your app. Okay. Welcome to FlashUp Pro. I'm going to allow it for you. Try AI power flashcards. Cool. What are your goals? Let's see. Make learning fun. Yeah. I am other. Like this. I like these. I like this. What is your study goal? Duolingo has said, it's helped retention just by forcing people to commit to a goal. So I'm going to commit to 15 minutes. Oh, that's cool. Take a picture. I'm going to describe instead. Oh, interesting. Okay. Okay. I like this. I've been talking about this, Chris, just so you know, this like 3-step process. These 2 pages before you show the paywall tend to convert better. If and only if, Nathan, if you go after a yearly is what we found. Those work generally better for a week or a a yearly offer than a monthly. We've only tested it with the weekly offer. We did that same 2-step pages before this paywall, and we didn't see an improvement. So I think what I would do if I were you is maybe even put a weekly offer instead, and then put the annual offer, because, you know, I'm probably cramming for a test. So maybe I just need it for a week. Anything you want to highlight here, Chris?
No, I think this all looks good. I mean, it's more of a question,
Mhm.
when you're getting outside, like in the world of games, we'll do a lot of first time offers, right? So
Yeah.
if this is your first time into the app, you get a special offer that you can never get again, right? To encourage getting people over that initial. Now, I know that's free to play. The initial transaction has a high friction, barrier. You want to get them past that. Um, but yeah, I don't know if that's something that lives in the world outside of
No,
games.
I like it.
No real change. Okay.
Yeah. So you tried a weekly, it didn't work, but I like that,
Yeah.
Chris, because here's where I would do it. So let's say I hit X, and Nathan, here's what we saw in another client's app, like no problem. So so this is what the other client did on the third open, Chris, is when they said, hey, would you like to try this app for 99 cents for the first week and then renews at whatever rate? For them, it was at a weekly rate. And for you, Nathan, you can do 99 cents for the first month, and then it renews at $8.99 for the preceding months. So that's another offer. We've seen that work. And that was their best performing subscription, Chris, was that 99 cents first week offer that only showed up on the third open, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
So one, they probably had an issue with just the onboarding paywall, which they did. And then secondly, it was just like, people are more engaged. If you're going to open an app for the third time, you're probably going to pay anyways. So
Right. Right. All right.
cool. All
Good
right,
stuff.
Nathan. Anything else before you? I'll watch the comments. All right, I think that's it, Chris. Well, the website. Anything you want to talk about, Chris, that I might have missed?
No, I just,
Before I
I think
plug.
we covered a lot here,
Yeah.
and I'm retreading the same theme of direct to consumer is,
Yeah.
it's more than just revenue and money. It really is about relationships with your users. And, we are at a point in time where you can really just take advantage of that now, because you can go outside of the app stores and build up your own direct relationship and your direct platform with players, and it's beneficial. We just know it's good for the users, it's good for the developers. So I'd encourage everybody to look into that a little bit more, whether it's us or any number of other groups out there.
Look, I think this is where it's headed. It's in the early days. And so if it's not working for you, trust, like that's just what happens when you're in the early days. And if games are starting to do it, it's starting, and it kind of just makes sense for a game. But if you've got an app, like I think that's where we can get creative. And so one of the reasons why I bring this up, and when we thought about having Chris on, I was just like, look, most of my audience is non-games. Are you sure this is going to be interesting for non-game developers? He's like, yeah, absolutely. And I think what non-games developers should be looking at is, how do you start really providing more value, like Chris said, versus just copying your IAPs. I think most people want to convert their users outside of Apple because of the 15 to 30% hit. They just don't know how yet. And the early numbers, Chris, what they've been doing is just replicating. That's why I love that quote so much. You're just replicating your normal paywall and getting them check out on the web. It's not going to work. You're going to have to do something better. And it's such early days that the winners that are going to win are the people that are doing it early and going to succeed. All right.
Exactly. And then just a last thought on that, I love looking at other industries, and we're seeing this now when it comes to online commerce, where you could have said an analogy here would be, Amazon is dominant, right? But we now have a trend where a lot of brands are actually directing users to their own brand sites, Nike.com or
Yeah.
whatever it may be. And users are starting to look for that, especially younger generations are showing much more brand affinity versus platform affinity, because there's so much noise on a platform, right? And this is all, I think there's a lot of sort of analogous comparisons across these different industries that can apply to the app business as well.
That's a great analogy. I love it. It is xsolla.com. the letter X, Xsolla.com, or just click on any of the links that we provide in your YouTube description, or if you're listening to the audio version on your favorite podcast app. Chris, if the audience wants to connect with you in any other way and say thank you for coming on and for those dad jokes and for finally beating Steve, where do you want to send them?
So look, I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can always find me there, Chris Hewish, Hewish. And yeah, would love to connect, get a conversation going.
That's awesome. Next week, we got a great interview as well with Ofer, and he's got a pretty interesting take, Chris. He talks about why not going viral, trying to go viral is actually a bad thing. And he talks about how he converted, speaking about web, how he converted all his users on the web in the very, very early days. I loved his go-to-market strategy, and you're going to want to pay attention because he did not even create an app. He does now, but did not create an app in the early days just to test distribution first. So join us live every Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific. Hey, I don't take any breaks. I'll be here every Friday. So Chris, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you